Yes, it would be worthwhile to study clinically, in detail, the steps taken by Hitler and Hitlerism, and to reveal to the very distinguished, very humanistic, very Christian bourgeois of the 20th century that, without his being aware of it, he has a Hitler inside him, that Hitler inhabits him, that Hitler is his demon, that if he rails against him, he is being inconsistent, and that, at bottom, what he cannot forgive Hitler for is not crime in itself, the crime against man. It is not the humiliation of man as such, it is the crime against the white man, the humiliation of the white man, and the fact that he applied to Europe colonialist procedures which until then had been reserved exclusively for the Arabs of Algeria, the coolies of India, and the blacks of Africa. Amy Sejourné, Discourse on Colonialism. Euro Americans, even so called leftists, are united not only in their mutual enjoyment of gulping down the products of colonized people's labor, with some flagellating themselves for all the world to see, to hilarious effect, but also in their feigned shock at things that we on whose backs this country was built knew all along. The majority of Euro Americans can be described best as gullible, naive children who, even despite their revolutionary pretensions and whether they call themselves Marxist, Leninist, Trotskyists, anarchists, or even Maoists, it simply doesn't seem to click with shit that we instinctively know. I think Fanon wrote about this somewhere. Listen, y'all, this country was built on blood, okay? You instinctively compare the horrors that you discover every day. At least you know that these are horrors. To Nazi Germany. Why? Because Nazi Germany is the epitome of evil. Why is Nazi Germany the epitome of evil? Because other Europeans suffered. They didn't invade South Africa. They invaded other European countries. France, Norway, all these places. The quote with which I open this video is from Amy Sejourné, a colleague, mentor, and friend of Frantz Fanon. I highly recommend his discourse on colonialism, the text from which this excerpt came. It was recently discovered by Euro Americans, kind of like they discovered the Americas, that non-male detainees at the fascist hellhole called Irwin County Detention Center in Georgia were being subject to hysterectomies without their informed consent. Basically, they were subjected to these sterilizing procedures against their will. This will prevent them from having children in the future. The virtue signaling left is in air quotes, is in outrage about this, making memes and threatening the usual impotent actions. Some mythical people's justice in the future is replaced by bullshit marches, letters to Congress people who don't give a rat's ass, and wordy appeals to other petty bourgeois white people who give even less of a rat's ass. Now, I am no nihilist, okay? That's not me by any means. But the political grandchildren of people who sat and watched, or more often than not, happily participated, as Mary Turner, a pregnant black woman, was lynched, her child ripped from her womb and stomped to death under a settler's boot in the same state. By the way, the kid cried once. Probably don't give a damn about the plight of detainees in a concentration camp in Georgia. Since you like the Nazi comparison so much, hop in a time machine to Germany in 1941 and see how much the average German, the average so-called Aryan, gave a fuck about the plight of Jews, Roma, communists, and others in concentration camps. I hate to hurt your feelings, but out of sight, out of mind is a thing. Of course, I'm a dialectical materialist, so I know that nothing is static, but hollow moral appeals are not the way to go. This is an amoral country with amoral people. This shit ain't new, okay? The Nazis in the US went hand in glove, ideologically, politically, and economically. The Bush family traded heavily with IG Farben and other Nazi firms. Charles Lindbergh, who has a major street in my city named after him, received a medal directly from the morphine-soaked hands of Hermann Goering. Hitler recognized the U.S. as the OGs of what would become his so-called final solution. Nazi theoreticians, pseudoscientists, and other officials studied in the United States and corresponded with eugenicists in California, which was the sort of headquarters, the world headquarters of eugenics at the time. Hitler kept a photograph of Henry Ford, noted anti-Semite, on his desk. The people who claim that the U.S. in World War II were somehow anti-fascist, or who crow over World War II veterans as if they didn't come home and become cops in Birmingham, Alabama, or blow up churches full of little black kids, are purposefully deluding themselves. Where did the study of gynecology come from? J. Marion Sims carving and slicing and violating the bodies of enslaved African women. African women like Dawn Wooten, who is the heroic LPN, the nurse, the whistleblower that exposed these crimes to the world. Why was this being done? Eugenics is basically a pseudoscience which holds that the human race can be perfected by removing so-called bad traits from the gene pool. Now, in a fascist capitalist hellscape like that in which we currently live, what are bad traits? Simply being black or brown. Why do you think that they pack us off to prison, feed us trash and garbage, kill us, route toxic waste through our communities, causing birth defects and cancer? Why do they force us to go to schools that are no better than jails and where we are taught to loathe and despise ourselves? Why do they ignore the COVID pandemic? Because it mostly kills us. Because we are seen as a surplus population. Why did they wipe out several hundred indigenous tribes? Because they were seen as a surplus population and they needed their land. The white man wanted his Lebensraum, and he got it through the ultimate and final manifestation of eugenics, genocide. Look at our Puerto Rican comrades. Up until the beginning of this century, when it was overtaken by India, our brothers and sisters on that island had the highest rate of forced sterilizations in the world. Check out Nelson Dennis's book, War Against All Puerto Ricans. It will piss you off. It certainly did me, and it takes a lot to piss me off. Puerto Rican mothers would leave the hospital with their child and their fallopian tubes tied. There was a cracker doctor who wound up on the cover of Time magazine who bragged about his ability to give Boricua people cancer. He was literally going down there with radiation machines giving these people cancer. The tribune of the Boricua people, the founder of the Nationalist Party, Afro-Puerto Rican Don Pedro Albizu Campos, was tortured to death by radiation in prison because his party dared to rebel in 1950 to get the United States off their land. Let's go to the South. Hysterectomies were so commonplace when black women went to the doctor that they were called Mississippi appendectomies. Fannie Lou Hamer received one, against her will. My grandmother, who was born and raised in Mississippi, still fears and despises doctors to this day. Let's be real, y'all. Truth time, no more bullshit. Contradictions are sharpening. The forces of genocide are sharpening their knives and preparing for what they think is a final showdown. They are already showing y'all what they intend to do. We are facing people who have no qualms about massacring entire nations and ethnicities of people. They literally want to condemn us to the tomb in a million different ways. Dare you defy them? Why do you keep making yourself a target? Why do you keep doing all these non-violent, peaceful marches? I saw a news article the other day. 95% of Black Lives Matter marches are peaceful and violent. My friend, they're killing us. That is not a good thing. Okay? That is not a good thing to be peaceful in the face of a violent enemy that wants to wipe you off the face of the fucking earth. I'm sorry. Why keep appealing to the conscience of people who have already expressed their intention to eradicate you, your family, and everybody else who thinks, looks, or acts like you from the face of the earth? The political question is simple. Do you have the right to exist or not? Do you have the right to education, a house, employment that makes you proud, medical treatment that doesn't fucking sterilize you, and a long, happy, healthy life free of debt and worry? If you believe so, congratulations, and welcome to the revolution. Hope you're ready to back up your belief with more than memes and words, because shit is getting real out here. I'm Black Redguard.